Thank you, Jason. Stay with us. Now, on the phone now is Jennifer Griffin, Fox News national security correspondent. Jennifer, we're hearing spiraling out of control, which is obviously extremely disturbing out of the UN. What can you tell us?
Well, Laura, what I can tell you is that I'm watching images in downtown Kyiv where where reporters are showing what appear to be they say they're hearing explosions in the capital of Kyiv. This is what we have been expecting. We have been told that once the airstrikes and missile strikes begin, that all of Ukraine is in Vladimir Putin's sights. I want to read to you what Putin said in his speech at 6 a.m. this morning when he announced this military action inside Ukraine. Here's what he said, and it's very ominous. In an apparent warning to the United States and NATO, he said in his address, a couple of words for those who would be tempted to intervene. Russia will respond immediately, and you will have consequences that you never have had before in your history. I want to pick up on something that Lucas was talking about earlier as to why it is that the U.S. has not put troops on the ground or flying in the airspace above Ukraine. It is a very different situation we find ourselves in tonight because these are two nuclear powers. The U.S. and NATO know that when you are talking about Russia and Russia going into a sovereign country like Ukraine, it's not something where you can put your military there on the ground and risk it escalating into a nuclear war. And so that is why there's been a very calibrated approach, an attempt to warn and declassify all this intelligence, to tell Putin that we're watching, we know what he's doing. They've been working on this since October. The NATO alliance has been working on this together. That's why the sanctions are ready to be rolling out. They're going to be rolling out in waves in the coming days because they knew that they had very few cards to stop Putin if he wanted to move his military into position, as they watched steadily as he was doing. And so very important to remember that that is why troops are in the Baltics and in the NATO Article 5 countries. They do not want this to spill over into a war between two nuclear powers. Secondly, you were talking earlier about, yes, go ahead, Laura.
No, Jennifer, the question here is, where are our NATO allies in terms of, just statements? We haven't seen statements yet from Germany, at least I haven't. France, Italy, it's a little surprising. I haven't seen anything coming out of, obviously the biggest power. Yeah, this evening. You
mean this evening? Well, yeah. I think, look, this has just happened in the last few minutes. They knew, everybody's intelligence suggested that tonight, in fact, I had heard the timing of when we expected this to begin. This was an open secret. This was not exactly a surprise attack that is occurring right now. I think what you are going to be seeing, you see the UN Security Council, that is right now a bit of a kabuki dance with the Russians seated as the presidency, the rotating presidency of the UN Security Council. They will veto anything that the Security Council says, but at least you heard the ambassadors there, and you'll hear the other ambassadors speaking out eloquently about how this is the gravest danger to Europe since World War II. This is a turning point in terms of what is going to be unleashed from Putin going into Ukraine. Every American needs to understand that this is not a European conflict. The world is too interconnected. And as we were talking about before, President Xi is watching this. I remember the images at the beginning of the Olympics when President Putin was sitting there and the Ukrainian national team comes walking into the opening ceremony. And he leaned back, he closed his eyes, and he had total disdain. He would not stand for the Ukraine team as they walked in. You knew at that moment that Putin had decided to invade Ukraine, and he was just lying in wait. And then he stood for the Russian team. It was all about the platform that the Olympics gave for these two world leaders, President Xi and President Putin, to carve up the world. And people better realize that President Xi is watching, and that one of the reasons the statements coming out of the Chinese leader with regards to Ukraine, he has not criticized Putin, has not criticized Russia. He said it's an internal, he believes that internal matters should be handled internally. He's referencing Taiwan. So this is a moment that the world had better stand up, and they better realize what's happening tonight, because it is very dangerous.
Jennifer, thank you. We'll check back with you.